No one expected the night to end like this. It began as a regular late-night interview. Laughs, music, a glamorous guest. But within minutes of stepping onto the stage, Jennifer Lopez found herself at the center of a brewing storm. Jimmy Kimmel, known for his sarcasm and biting humor, pushed boundaries she didn't find funny, and she pushed back harder. What exactly happened on that stage? Why did Jimmy lose control? And how did Jennifer Lopez walk out? Not just undefeated, but more powerful than ever. The lights flared, the crowd erupted, and the band played her in. Jennifer Lopez, dressed in a shimmering white jumpsuit, glided onto the set of Jimmy Kimmel Live. Like she owned it, she waved to the crowd, smiling wide, her posture effortlessly confident. The applause was deafening. Jimmy stood from behind his desk, forcing a polite grin. Jennifer Lopez, everyone, let's give her a hand for surviving yet another movie flop. The crowd laughed awkwardly. Jennifer's eyes didn't blink. She sat down gracefully, smoothing her outfit, then turned to him with a calm smile. Nice to see you too, Jimmy. Still charming as ever. Jimmy chuckled, leaning back. Oh, I'm just warming up. The tone was already off. She felt it. The audience felt it. This wasn't the typical late-night welcome. Jimmy wasn't joking. He was jabbing. So let's talk about your movie, Atlas, Jimmy began. It's streaming, right? That's what we say now instead of nobody paid to see it in theaters. A few forced laughs scattered in the room. Jennifer didn't flinch. I'd rather people watch from their homes than not at all. Accessibility is a beautiful thing. He nodded, smirking. Right. And critics are just misunderstood artists too, I guess. They're entitled to opinions. I'm entitled to keep building things they'll never have the courage to try. What a terrorist to try, she answered, eyes locked on him. That got a cheer from the crowd. Jimmy raised his eyebrows, slightly caught off guard. Touché. But he wasn't done. So, how do you do it, he asked, voice mockingly earnest. You manage to star in flops, release forgettable songs, date the same men twice, and still be a brand. The audience gasped. Jennifer's ice smile vanished. Persistence, she replied coolly, and talent. Two things sarcasm doesn't cover up. Jimmy's face twitched. Ouch, I think we hit a nerve. She leaned forward, her voice firm but poised. You came for me before we even said hello. I'm just making sure you don't forget who you invited. The crowd cheered, loudly. Jimmy adjusted his tie. I invite a lot of people. Most of them don't try to hijack the show. Jennifer tilted her head. Then maybe most of them weren't interesting enough to stand up for themselves. Silence, and then applause. She had flipped the room, and Jimmy Kimmel knew it. The applause from Jennifer's last line was still ringing when Jimmy Kimmel forced a smile and shuffled his cue cards. He clearly hadn't expected her to flip the energy so fast, and now he had to choose, ease up or double down. He chose the latter. So, Jimmy began with mock curiosity. What's it like to be a pop star, actress, beauty mogul, and still somehow always in the tabloids more for your love life than your work? The crowd gave a nervous chuckle. Jennifer didn't smile. What's it like, she shot back, to sit behind that desk and try to make a name off other people's lives? The audience roared. Jimmy blinked. Oh, come on, he tried, waving it off. I'm just doing my job. Then maybe do it better, Jennifer said smoothly. Try jokes, not jabs. Jimmy cleared his throat. He wasn't used to guests clapping back this hard, or this elegantly. Well, he muttered, glancing at the camera, you do make it easy. I mean, just last month. Vegas wedding rumors? Really? Jennifer crossed one leg over the other, completely unfazed. You should try it sometime. Commitment, or at least getting the facts right. Oof, Jimmy winced playfully. You really came here to fight. I came here because your team begged for this segment, she replied, turning to the audience. And I said yes because I thought it would be fun. I didn't realize I'd have to bring armor. The crowd laughed and clapped. Jimmy's face tightened. All right, he said, raising both hands. Let's talk about your new skincare line then. Another celebrity jumping into beauty. Must be crowded in there. Jennifer leaned forward. It's only crowded for people who don't belong. Another cheer, another flash of victory in her eyes. Jimmy pretended to scribble on his desk. Just curious, do you ever get tired of defending yourself? Do you ever get tired of attacking women on your show? She asked, her tone suddenly heavier. The audience fell silent. Jimmy sat up straighter. Now hold on, I don't attack. You undermine, she interrupted. You laugh when you're uncomfortable, and you mask contempt as comedy. He narrowed his eyes. That's rich coming from someone who sells perfection. She looked directly at him. I sell resilience. And no matter how many punchlines you throw at me, I'll still be here. Jimmy blinked. The air in the studio was razor thin. Jennifer added, You wanted a show, Jimmy? I'm just giving you one you can't control. The audience exploded. Applause, whistles, people standing. Jimmy Kimmel had been outmaneuvered. Again. And he hated every second of it. Jimmy tapped his pen hard against the desk, the rhythm betraying his nerves. His grin was still painted on, but behind the eyes, there was something else. Annoyance. Maybe panic. The audience had turned, and Jennifer Lopez had become the star of not just the show, but the room. So, Jenny from the block fights back. Huh? He smirked, voice rising a little. Didn't think the Bronx came with a publicist. Jennifer tilted her head slowly. It comes with intelligence, and enough class not to hide behind sarcasm. The audience murmured. Jimmy rolled his eyes. You know, I've had A-listers on this show, actors, presidents, legends, and none of them ever felt the need to clap back this much. Jennifer shrugged, crossing her arms. Maybe none of them were tired of being reduced to clickbait. He leaned in, eyes narrowing. So now I'm the problem with your career? I didn't say that, she replied calmly. You're just the latest echo in a room full of tired noise. That one hit. Jimmy looked down at his notes, flipping a card unnecessarily. Tell me something, Jennifer, he said, voice dropping an octave. Do you ever stop to think maybe the public's just over you? Gasps. Jennifer blinked once, slowly. You mean the same public that made this show trend because I'm here? The crowd erupted. Jimmy turned slightly red. Well, the numbers don't lie, but they don't last either. Careers fade, beauty fades. And bitterness, Jennifer snapped back, doesn't age well either. The entire room went silent. You know, Jimmy continued, his voice harsher now, some people think you've built an empire on surface. Glamour, glitter, nothing real. Jennifer leaned forward. You mean like this show? Oof. The audience was on fire. Applause, screams. Even the band at the back smirked. Jimmy sat back, face tight. Is that what you came here for? To turn my studio into your soapbox? No, Jennifer said softly but firmly. I came here to be respected. But when that wasn't on offer, I decided to take control. Jimmy stood suddenly, the chair squeaking behind him. You know what? I think we're done here. Jennifer stood too, slow and steady. I agree. But the crowd didn't. They started chanting, J-Lo! J-Lo! Jimmy raised a hand trying to quiet them, but they weren't listening anymore. The moment was no longer his. Jimmy stood stiffly behind his desk, hands gripping the edge, as if it were the only thing keeping him upright. Jennifer Lopez remained calm, radiant even, like a queen unbothered by the chaos unfolding around her. The audience, completely captivated, had turned this late-night comedy show into something else entirely. A battlefield. Jimmy forced a smile for the camera. Well, folks, I guess we've learned something tonight. Never invite someone on the show who thinks it's their show. Afraid might outshine you. A mix of gasps and applause rippled through the studio. Jimmy's smile vanished. All right, he snapped. You've said your piece. You got your viral moment. Now sit down or get out. Jennifer took a breath. You don't get to bully me into silence. Not on live TV, not ever. He stepped out from behind his desk, now face to face with her. I'm not bullying. I'm hosting a show that's being hijacked by someone who thinks they're untouchable. She looked him straight in the eye. No, Jimmy, I just refuse to be your punching bag. And maybe your show wasn't strong enough to hold a real conversation. The audience roared again. Jimmy turned to the crowd, his face red with anger. This isn't The View, all right? This is my set, my rules, and if you can't respect them, then you can leave. Jennifer took a single poised step back. Gladly. But before she moved, she looked back at the camera. You know, I came here to talk about music, about life, about love. Instead, I walked into a trap disguised as comedy, and you wonder why women stop coming to these shows. The studio froze. Jimmy barked, "Security!" It wasn't necessary. Jennifer had already begun walking toward the edge of the set, head high, unfazed. As she passed the audience, they didn't boo, they applauded. Loudly. Standing ovation. Some even shouted her name. Jimmy watched seething as the camera followed her exit. Then he turned back to the desk. "You're welcome, Internet," he muttered. "There's your headline." But the audience didn't laugh. Not this time. By the time Jennifer Lopez stepped out of the studio doors and into the Los Angeles night, social media was already on fire. Clips from the confrontation had been uploaded mid-show. The hashtags #JLO destroys, Jimmy and #Kimmel meltdown were trending globally within minutes. One fan posted, "Jennifer Lopez didn't just walk out, she walked over him." Meanwhile, inside the building, chaos brewed behind the scenes. Jimmy stormed off stage during the break, cursing under his breath, while his producers scrambled to manage the mess. The network phones lit up. Executives demanded answers. "You can't just kick someone off live TV like that," one producer whispered nervously. "I can when they hijack my show," Jimmy shot back. But even he knew he'd lost control, and the internet wasn't on his side. Major news outlets jumped on the story. Headlines ranged from "Jennifer Lopez stands her ground on Kimmel" to "Talk show host crosses the line." Clips aired on every news program from Good Morning America to BBC World News. Celebrities chimed in. Viola Davis tweeted, "That's how a queen handles disrespect, with poise and power." Even Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson reposted the clip with the caption, "J-Lo 1, Ego 0." Jimmy's silence on the matter only fueled speculation. A brief Instagram story he posted hours later read simply, "Live TV, anything can happen." Jennifer, however, didn't stay quiet. The next day, she released a short video, no makeup, casual hoodie, sunlight hitting her face. "I didn't go on that show to fight," she said calmly. "But I also didn't go to be belittled. Women, especially women of color, have been dealing with disguised mockery for too long. I stood up, not just for me, but for everyone watching who's ever had their worth questioned." The comments exploded with support. Fans, influencers, activists, even former talk show hosts praised her candor. Then came the most shocking twist of all. The network announced that Jimmy Kimmel Live would be temporarily suspended for internal review. It was unprecedented. Jennifer had walked out of a hostile interview and walked straight into history. What do you think? Did Jimmy Kimmel go too far? Or did Jennifer Lopez simply refuse to play along? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this isn't just about a talk show. It's about power, respect, and what happens when someone dares to fight back. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more stories that shake up the screen. Because sometimes silence isn't golden, it's just what the bully wants.